Okay, so now we've made it to multi-dimensional arrays. This is the last section of this particular chapter. And I'm going to confess to you that this is going to be very challenging for you. I'm just preparing you. You're going to have to practice this because it can confuse you. It will confuse you. And that's normal. So I'm just preparing you for something that is going to be frustration, so to speak. But if you keep learning and adding small layers and getting small victories with these, you will conquer them. So if you're new to this channel and you're not a part of the cohort, you are welcome to follow along with the curriculum. All you have to do is click the link in the description. It is free. You don't have to pay for anything. It's a nice resource that we're offering with LaunchCode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the curriculum. Multi-dimensional arrays. Earlier, we learned that arrays can be stored and let me read that again. Earlier, we learned that arrays can store any type of value. If that is true, can we store arrays inside of arrays? Well, yes, we can. Multi-dimensional arrays is an array of arrays, meaning that the values inside the array are also arrays. The inner arrays can store other values such as strings, numbers, or even more arrays. The figure below demonstrates a synonym array that has arrays as values. The inner arrays contain words that are synonyms of each other. Notice each inner array has a index position. Okay, what does this look like to you? This looks like some spreadsheet table, right? So this is what multi-dimensional arrays are good for. Two-dimensional arrays. The simplest form of a multi-dimensional array is a two-dimensional array. A two-dimensional array is like a spreadsheet with rows and columns. To access each item or to access items in a two-dimensional array, use square bracket notation and two indexes array. This is the syntax. Notice the two brackets right there. This is why you're going to have to play around with working with multi-dimensional arrays. The first index is for the outer array. Notice the order. The first index is for the outer array or the row. What's the row right here? So this is considered a row. These are considered the columns, just in case you didn't understand that. And the second index is for the inner array, the columns. So the first bracket is representing these rows. The second is representing the columns. And it's hard to kind of visualize that when you're writing the code. So it's definitely going to take practice. The row and the column analogy is used to help visualize a two-dimensional array. However, it's not a perfect analogy. There are no specific JavaScript language rules forcing the inner array to all have the same length. So what that means, they can be different sizes. So for instance, this row right here can have 5 columns in it. So it can have, the row will go all the way over to 5 and there's 5 columns, but there's only 4 rows. So it looks off. It's not even, is what we're saying. So make sure you understand that. Now, use a two-dimensional array to contain 3 different lists of space shuttle crews. You're going to come across this in your code. So here, notice here, we're declaring and we're initializing a variable called shuttle crews. And we have an opening bracket. As a compiler, you know that this is an array. But then you notice inside it, there are 3 more arrays inside of it. So it's holding a collection of arrays, and each array is holding a collection of strings. Now remember the rule. Shuttle crew, the first bracket is for the row. The second is for the column, remember, under 2-dimensional. So what does that mean? If I'm looking for index 0 at index 2, I'm looking for index 0 of the row, and then so this is the row right here. These are the rows right here. So you got 3 rows right here. So index 0 means it's going to be this first one, which is Robert Gibson. And then it's looking for index 2, which not Robert Gibson, but this is the first array. I'm sorry. The first array is 0. Inside of it, I'm looking for index 2, 0, 1, 2. Mae Jamison is what it's going to return me. So you want to think like the compiler, because you got to know what the results are. And here are the results right here. So you want to practice around with this, do different things, add extra columns to it so that it will again make sense to you, because you're going to use this to help you understand when you get to your assignments that introduce this to you. Multi-dimensional arrays, multi-dimensions and array methods. In a multi-dimensional array, both the inner and the outer arrays can be altered with array methods. However, bracket notation must be used correctly. Notice what it says. It has to be used correctly, or it's not going to work and it's going to be confusing to you. So make sure you take your time to make sure you understand that you're using it correctly. To apply a method to the outer array, the syntax is this. Here's the name of the array, and then here's the method, right? So here, to apply a method to one of the inner arrays, the syntax is multi-array, and then we're using index of inner array. We're using a bracket, and we're calling for the index of the inner array, and then we're using whatever method we're using to manipulate it. Here's an example. Use the array methods to add an additional crew array and alter existing array. So here we are we're declaring initializing shuttle crews with an array with 3 arrays nested inside of it. Now we're creating a new variable called declaring a new variable, and we're creating this particular array with a new set of names in it. But now we want to add this one to the shuttle crew. So it says add a new crew array to the end of the shuttle. Now remember those methods that we gave you. We broke it down to you. This is where you should have taken some time to understand those methods, because now we got to apply one of those methods here in this example. So let's look at it. So we have the shuttle crew. Notice that we don't need to put the variable let on it now. And we're using that push method. I want to push the new crew. Now remember what push does. If you go back and read it, understand what push is doing. So I'm pushing this new variable into this variable, because remember the dot is an access. I want to get access to this variable, which is the shuttle crew, and I want to push the new crew into it. What order is it going to push it in? That's why you need to understand what push does. So now when we console.log shuttle crew, remember this gives me the row, which is the first array inside of the array, and then this gives me the index of what's inside of that particular array. That's the row, and this is going to give me the column. Remember that. So now when I do reverse the order of the crew at index 1, then all I have to do here is do shuttle crews, add the array with the index 1, and then reverse it. And then we console.log that, so we can see what our output is. So if you go back up here to line 10 where we push the new crew, this is all the information for the new crew. So index 0 is Mark Polanski, index 1 is Robert Kerbim, and index 2 is Joan Higginbotham. And so therefore, I am adding this whole array right here. I'm going to add it into this array. Understand where it's going to be placed. Is it going to be placed after this array, or will it be pushed before the first array? Will this now become index 0, or would this become index 3? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. So here, when I do push it and then I do console log shuttle crews 3 and 2, it says Joan Higgins. So right there gave you your answer where it was pushed to. And so it pushed here, and then I want to get to index of 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and then I want to go ahead and push it to 2. And so I want to get the index of 2, 0, 1, 2. That's how I got Joan Higgins. Now here on the shuttle crew, I wanted to reverse at index 1. So what am I reversing? Remember, it's giving me the row. So I'm going to reverse these indexes. Now remember, I've already added this index to it, or it added this new crew. So this is a new array that's added in now. So now I have 3 indexes, but I have 4 items, or I have 4 arrays. So at shuttle a crew 1, it reversed it. So what am I reversing? I'm reversing everything that's at index 1, which will be 0, 1. So this is the one right here. And it's going to reverse everything inside of it. So that's how Bernard Harris is now first. Eileen Ochoa is not. Ochoa, I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. And Kent Rominger. And so therefore, it's reversed. So play around with this so you can get an understanding, because like I said, this is going to take some time for you to get your head wrapped around how this works. But just remember the rules and the principles. That's going to help you. Beyond the 2-dimensional arrays, generally there is no limit to how many dimensions you can have when creating arrays. However, it is rare that you will use more than 2 dimensions. Later on in the class, we will learn more about collection types that can handle complex problems beyond the scope of 2-dimensional arrays. Check your understanding. And now we've made it to the end of this section and the end of this chapter. A lot of information, although they were short sections, but there's a lot of information there, a lot of seeds that just been planted. Cultivate these seeds. Go back and study them. You're learning now that if you do have some time, don't rush to go to the next chapter. Go back and reinforce what you've already learned. So that's the end of this chapter. I'll see you on the next chapter, which is not chapter 9. We're going to start putting a lot of these concepts together. Remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you in the next chapter.